Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. I am out in my front garden this morning. We had a cold week last week, but it is about 70 degrees this morning and just feels wonderful. And since we had that cold snap, I am doing a little bit of maintenance on my roses. So you see my rose trellis arbor in behind me. Perspective's a little off. It's actually pretty tall, but because it was so cold, we got down into the 40s for a couple of nights. The roses are at the perfect timing to prune and maintain them. And something that I haven't always done, but I am doing this year, is defoliating the roses. So foliage obviously is all of the leaves that grow around on the plant. And because we have such a mild climate here, it doesn't really lose its leaves. Here we are in January, and you can see all of the leaves still on these rose bushes behind me. So what I'm gonna do, and I've already started on the pink one, but I'm gonna finish the climbing yellow one and take you along with me here, is I'm gonna start out by just removing a lot of the foliage, and then I can really see how the plant is growing, see which canes, the branches of the rose, look strong and healthy and which ones look kind of spindly and maybe a little more brittle or less productive. And I can start to shape up this plant and get it ready to have a great flush of blooms in the spring. Now, this climbing rose in particular, back behind me here, we originally planted it in the ground up in Georgia, and it bloomed several times that first year, planted it from bare root, and then we transferred it to a container and brought it with us to Florida. So it's actually been in that container for several years, and just last summer I got it in the ground again, and I'm trying to get it to be a little happier because it's been several years since it had any blooms on it, but being in a little planter pot, I'm not sure I would make the trouble to bloom either. So what we're doing today is trying to maintain a lot of this horizontal growth, or I should say the vertical growth. Really, at this point, it's kind of curved up and over. So a lot of these nice strong canes that are growing up are what we consider the vertical, but then they're starting to flop over the top of this support, and the lateral shoots, the horizontal shoots, are the ones that put out the most blooms. So those are the ones that I want to focus on cleaning up, picking out the healthiest ones, and keeping the length as much as possible, but just sort of bringing it in so that it can put out new fresh growth that hopefully will be ready to bloom. So let me turn it around and show you a little bit more of what I'm working on. This one here is my pink rose. This actually came with the house, and we have several rose hips. Some of these blooms were actually just a few several weeks ago, back around the holidays. We had blooms right up until Christmas. So I've got all the leaves pulled off. I missed a little tiny one right here. Just grab that while I'm looking at it. And of course I am wearing gloves because these roses are pretty intense with some of these thorns. So the newer growth has a lot less thorns, but some of those older primary canes have lots of big and small thorns on them. So technically I could deadhead these rose hips, but I've actually had pretty good success with some of them maturing and being able to collect seeds off of them. So I haven't tried sprouting any of the seeds yet, but I guess that's a little bit of an experiment to me that I am leaving them on the plant for now. And if anything, it's fruit that some of our native wildlife or local wildlife can snack on those rose hips. Of course, when the flower is fertilized, it will produce a fruit that usually has, I've seen like 3 or 4 seeds up to maybe 5 or 6 on some of the larger ones. That just kind of form in this top section, and you can wiggle them right out of there, and you see that a little bit. Those little bumps are actually the seeds. Can't get it to focus very well, sorry about that. But I'm gonna let those keep maturing a little bit more. This pod is still mostly green. Just let it sort of mature and dry right there on the plant a little while, and then I'll take it inside and pull those seeds off. So now up here, you can see I've got a little bit of disease pressure on these leaves, and it's super important when you're pruning even a healthy rose, when you're taking those leaves off, that you clean them up and don't leave them around, especially in the wintertime, because any fungus or disease or bacteria that has impacted those leaves can get back into the plant when it starts to flush out again. So I've got my little collection barrel Aldi for the win here, but that is just helping me to keep clean as I go along and pick up all these bits of the rose leaves and canes and branches. So this one here is pretty much the longest of the canes that I've got. So it's coming all the way from the ground up and over all the way to the opposite post. So I want to leave that because I want it to continue growing outward. This is another one that is just about there. Got a few other sort of spindly ones, and you can see some nice little healthy buds right here. Hopefully those will put out some good lateral shoots and leaf clusters and flower buds is definitely the goal here. Now, what I don't want is some of this lateral growth lower down. So this is only less than 3 feet off of the ground. I really don't want it to be bushing out as much into the middle of the trellis. I want it to go up and over. You know, some fullness, yes, but just sort of controlling where things are going so that we get the most vertical growth possible. And then there's a lot of crisscrossing and crowding down in the base of it. A lot of weeds I need to attend to, but I'll get to that as well. And all of this, I just want to go right in there and just start to tidy it up. Now, continuing right along here, I do want to point out, first of all, these wire ties. I'm going to be upgrading those. I've gotten some better quality ties that are less likely to injure the cambium of these rose canes. You might notice kind of some white speckling on some of these. We did have some painting done recently, and so that is not a sign of disease. That is actually paint on the surface of the plant. It's not really smothering the surface to the point that I'm concerned with trying to clean it off, but at some point it will need to be cleaned up. An additional note with my pruners here, these are a nice brand new set, so I haven't had them sharpened yet because they are still in great shape, but I do make sure in between plants, because I pruned those other pink roses first, I got some alcohol wipes, which you can buy super cheap at local stores or online, and just wiped these down thoroughly with a medical grade alcohol wipe. And I actually even wiped down my gloves because I hadn't really disinfected my gloves in a while. So what I'm looking for as I'm pruning is anything that is crisscrossing. You can kind of see how this one's just sort of out here in the middle. That's not going to get where I want it to go. So I'm just going to take that off right above sort of the collar of that. Some of the leaves, I'm trying to be careful not to cut the bud, but only cut the leaf section, the petioles, and just right on this tender green part here. And honestly, this branch right here is not going in the direction that I want it to go. When I pull out this little bit of debris in here, you can see that it's pointing completely away from the trellis, and it's way down at the base of this root, or this rose. So I'm just going to take that out as well. Not as clean of a cut as I wanted. but that should still heal up pretty well. Another one here, this is kind of just going off in its own direction. It's a fairly healthy cane, but I don't feel like it's serving my purpose, and I'm going to have to force it against its natural growth pattern to train it back onto the trellis. So it just needs to go. You don't want to cut into what we call the branch collar, which is the part that flares right outside of the attachment points. So you can see it a little bit, hopefully you can see that, like right down here where there's a bit of a flare. These could have used a cleanup sooner. Honestly, this cane right here, this upper part is pretty well dead. So I'm going to take it off right here. And you can see how dry and dead that wood is right there. So that was definitely a needed removal. This little section is sort of just doing its own thing. Not going in the direction I want, not super healthy. That I'm just going to take it right down to the ground. The more that I can focus the energy of the plant onto the healthier, fuller sections and canes and branches, the better my end result is going to be. This one is kind of small, but it's going in a direction that I need some more growth, so I'm gonna leave it. This one, not a bit. It's totally just so thin and spindly, not really helping the plant. So getting that one out allows the plant to put more of its focus and energy into the healthier bits. Now that I'm looking at this section, as I keep going, let me angle over here a little bit. So this section right here, it's just got this one little burst of leaves at the top. It's showing some signs of stress at browning there. Those branches are dying. That's all that's on this particular bit of this cane. I don't think we need it. Just gonna go right in here, avoiding that collar again. I'm gonna show you on this one though what I'm talking about with the collar, the attachment points. So right where you see this flare, you want to avoid that. So you would want to cut just beyond it at a bit of an angle so that it doesn't encourage water to trap into the joints, but it doesn't bruise or damage the main stem. All right, this is another one. I'm a little undecided about this because it's going vertically. Let me grab the camera and show you here. This one has a better growth pattern vertically. This one is kind of coming out to the side, but that one's going way up and over out here. You can see that all the way down from there. So I like that one better. I'm just gonna go for it. And oh man, I can't make up my mind. We've got 1, 2, this one. This is a pretty good one. I'm gonna leave it in place. Yeah, a little bit of it is a judgment call, I guess, and I can't quite decide if I want to take that one out. But I think for now, I'm getting a little over focused on taking out canes. I'm going to switch back to defoliating, and a little harder to show that as I go. I will show you one bit that when I cut the leaves, and I am cutting them rather than pulling them because I don't want it to tear the plant, the remaining part. I'm trying to protect these little buds. So I'm actually cutting above that. And when I cut that away, I'm leaving just a little bit of that stem in place. Again, all those speckles are paint, so it's not a disease issue on this cane. I don't have to worry about the health of the main stem there. But this is a good growth point. And it's actually a pretty good, healthy looking growth point. This is another one that's kind of getting started. By defoliating all these other growth buds, it will hopefully promote the newer growth like this one here, so that we get a much fuller, healthier, and just more energy to put into fullness and flowering over this next year. So this is definitely a trust the process moment. I had a previous video that got cut off, but I have defoliated, pruned, and done a little bit of training on my climbing rose. You can see kind of up and over. And then also my pink roses. And I'm leaving the rose hips, the fruit, on the plant. I showed in the previous clip that you can sort of see where the little seeds are forming right here in the center of those rose hips. Those kind of lighter dots are the seeds, and I want to experiment, see if I can get some of those to grow. But I've mainly cleaned up things that are not healthy looking, that are crossing other branches, or that are just growing in a direction that I don't want them to go. So since we just had that nice cold snap, some of you further north, you're still in a real kind of winter, but for us here in Florida, getting down into the 40s for a couple of nights, the plant is just going to naturally pull back from that outer growth because it detects those colder temperatures. Whenever that happens, that's definitely the perfect time to get in there and prune. So hope you have learned something, enjoyed this video. If you have roses at home, I would love to see some pictures in the comments. YouTube won't let you do that, but head over to my Instagram or my Facebook page at Botany Key, and you'll be able to send me a message, leave me a comment, let me know what you're growing and what kind of maintenance you're doing. And like I've said before, one of my New Year's resolutions is to maintain my tools better. So now that I've finished this project, I'm going to go back inside, get another medical grade alcohol wipe, and clean these pruners, let them dry, and they'll be ready to go for the next project. Hope you have a chance to get in your garden today. Enjoy being outside. Just enjoy the nature that's around you, whether it's snow on the ground, whether it's flowers blooming. Just take a moment, be outside, and make it a beautiful day.